Very good morning, students. Welcome back to my channel. I am your computer science lecturer Shweta ma'am. In the last class, we had discussed input-output devices. Today, in this session, I want to explain about the next device is memory device. The computer is having a memory. It is very important, right? So, the data can be stored only in the memory of the computer. Where the data is stored in the computer, the data is stored only in the memory of the computer. So, the memory is an essential component of any digital computer. So, that's why the memory device is an essential component of any digital computer. It is a storage device. The memory we are also called as a storage device. It stores programs and data which are required by the CPU and the results generated after processing. ಸೊ ಈ ಒಂದು ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ಸನ್ನು ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ, ಡೇಟಾನ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ, ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ನಮಗೆ ಜನ್ರೇಟ್ ಆಗುವಂಥ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ಸನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. ಸಿ ಪಿ ಯುಗೆ ಡೇಟಾನ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರುವಂಥ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಸ್ಪೇಸನ್ನು ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಈಸ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫೈಡ್ ಇಂಟು ಟೂ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್. The computer memory is classified into two types. The two types of computer memory are number 1 primary memory and number 2 secondary memory. What are the two types of memory? Number 1 primary memory and number 2 secondary memory. Primary memory. So primary memory is again classified into two types. That two devices of primary memory are RAM and ROM. The RAM is having two types, static RAM and dynamic RAM. The ROM is having four types, PROM, EPROM, EEPROM and flash memory. Next we go secondary memory. Secondary memory is classified into three types based on their design and storage devices. The secondary memory is classified into three types. They are magnetic memory, optical memory devices and USB flash memory devices. So USB flash devices we are also called as pen drive. So the magnetic memory devices are hard disk, floppy disk. Optical memory devices are CD-ROM, DVD-ROM and BD-ROM. So this is the classification of memory. So if in the exam they are asked explain the classification of memory, means you write the classification flowchart I will given. So that classification first you write, then later you explain one by one. Okay. The storage capacity of the computer is measured in terms of byte. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟೋರೇಜ್ ಕೆಪಾಸಿಟಿನ ಮೆಷರ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾವ ಯೂನಿಟನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ? ಬೈಟ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಯೂನಿಟನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಎ ಬೈಟ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ಸ್ ಎ ಟೋಟಲ್ 8 ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್ ಬಿಟ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಒಂದು ಬೈಟಲ್ಲಿ ಟೋಟಲ್ ನಮಗೆ 8 ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್ ಬಿಟ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. BIT stands for binary digit. Either it is a 0 or 1. A sequence of 8 bits is called as 1 byte. ಒಂದು ಬೈಟಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ 8 ಬಿಟ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. 1 bit can store either a 0 or a 1. ಒಂದು ಬಿಟ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ 0 ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ 1 ಇರ್ಬೋದು. The bit is either 0 or 1. Understood? So here I will given a table. In the table I will give the memory of computer. So the memory we are represent by using a byte. Based on that byte we are discuss other memory units. Observe the table. The first column I will given as name of the memory. Second column how we are represent in short form. In the third column how much capacity it is having in 2 to the power value, and in the last column the number of bytes can be given. First one is a byte. In shorthand we are called as 1 byte. 2 to the power of 0. You know any number to the power 0 it will having the constant value 1. Byte 2 to the power of 0 values means 1 byte. Next, kilobyte. 1 KB. In short form, we called as 1 KB. 1 KB means 2 to the power of 10 bytes. 1 KB ಅಂದರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಅದು 2 to the power of 10 bytes. 2 to the power of 10 value ಏನು ಅಂದರೆ 1024. So you calculate the value. 2 power 0 plus 2 power 1 plus 2 power 2 plus 2 power 3 like that. You are adding all the power values until 2 to the power of 10. You get 1024. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಲ್ಲ? ಸೊ 2 to the power of 10 value is 1024. 1 kilobyte equals to 1024 bytes. Next, megabyte. Megabyte in short form we call as 1 MB. 1 MB is equivalent to 2 to the power of 20 bytes. 2 to the power of 20 bytes means 1024 into 1024 bytes. The 1024 we are called as a kilobytes, right? So that's why we are called as 1024 kilobytes equal to 1 megabyte. Next term, gigabyte. Short form we called as 1 GB. Gigabyte is having 2 to the power of 30 bytes. So it is having 1024 megabytes. So 1024 megabytes, 1 GB we are written as 1024 into 1024 into 1024 bytes. So that can be in short form we are written as 1024 megabytes. Next term is terabyte. 1 TB. In short form we call as 1 TB. 1 TB is equivalent to 2 to the power of 40 bytes. That 2 to the power of 40 bytes we are called as 1024 gigabytes. 1024 gigabytes equal to 1 terabyte. Next term, petabyte. 1 petabyte is equivalent to 2 to the power of 50 bytes of memory. That 2 to the power of 50 is equivalent to 1024 terabytes. Understood? So, terabyte value is 1024 into 1024 into 1024 into 1024 into 1024. That can be written as 1024 terabytes. Understood? 1024 terabytes equals to 1 petabyte. Next term, exabyte. Exabyte in short form we called as 1 EB. 1 EB is equivalent to 2 to the power of 60 bytes. 2 to the power of 60 bytes we are written as 1024 petabytes. 1024 petabytes equals to 1 exabyte. Understood? Next term is zettabyte. 1 zettabyte. In short form we called as 1 ZB. 1 ZB is equivalent to 2 to the power of 70 bytes. That 2 to the power of 70 is equal to 1024 exabytes. So 1024 exabyte equals to 1 zettabyte. Next term, yottabyte. YATTA. Yottabyte. 1 in short form we call as 1 YB. 1 YB is equivalent to 2 to the power of 80 bytes. That 2 to the power of 80 bytes is equal to 1024 zettabyte. Understood? The 1024 zettabytes is equal to 1 yottabyte. The next term is brontobyte. BRONTO. Brontobyte. In short form we called as 1 BB. So 1 BB is equivalent to 2 to the power of 90 bytes. That 2 to the power of 90 bytes we are called as 1024 yottabytes. So 1024 yottabytes is equal to 1 brontobyte or 1 BB. Next term is geobyte. GEOP. Geobyte. So that is in short form we written as 1 capital G small e b. 1 GB. So 1 GB means it is not a gigabyte. GEB. So 1 GEB. That 1 GEB is equivalent to 2 to the power of 100 bytes. The 2 to the power of 100 bytes is equal to 1024 Bronto bytes. Understood? So these are all the certain terms they are given behind this. So number of units are there to measure the memory of the computer. Our desktop computers or PCs is available 1 TB of hard disk. Understood? So 4 GB of RAM or 8 GB of RAM or 16 GB of RAM, but 1 terabyte of hard disk. Nowadays it is available in SSD devices. So secondary storage disk devices can be available. Understood? ಸೊ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಮೆಮೊರೀಸನ್ನು ಮಾತ್ರ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಬಿಹೈಂಡ್ ದಟ್ ಇದ್ರ ಮುಂದೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಬೇಜಾನ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಕೆಪಾಸಿಟೀಸು ಇದೆ. ದೀಸ್ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಕೆಪಾಸಿಟೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ಎನಫ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ PU level. Next we are discussed one by one type of memory devices. So there are two types of memory devices, right? What are the two types of memory devices? First one is a primary memory and second one is a secondary memory. We move to the primary memory. Primary memory is also called as main memory of the computer or semiconductor memory of the computer. Main memory ಗೆ ಇರುವಂತ ಹೆಸರುಗಳೇನು? ಪ್ರೈಮರಿ ಮೆಮೊರಿಯನ್ನು ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ? ಮೇನ್ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಅಥವಾ ಸೆಮಿಕಂಡಕ್ಟರ್ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಅಂತ ಕೂಡ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. Main memory is also called as a primary memory or semiconductor memory. The primary memory stores programs and data which are currently needed by the CPU. So primary memory ನಮಗೆ ಲೆಸ್ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ CPU ಯಾವ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ಸನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ, ಯಾವ ಡೇಟಾನ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿರುತ್ತೆ, CPUಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರುವಂಥ ಡೇಟಾನ ಈ ಪ್ರೈಮರಿ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. The primary memory stores programs and data which are currently needed by CPU. The size of the main memory or primary memory is comparatively smaller than that of secondary memory because of its high cost. ನಮಗೆ ಪ್ರೈಮರಿ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಡಿವೈಸಸ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದೆ, ಆದರೆ ಸೈಜ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇದೆ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಇದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮೇನ್ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಅಂತ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. CPUಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋ ಮೆಮೊರಿಯನ್ನು ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಇದರ ಸ್ಪೀಡ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಕೂಡ ನಮಗೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ದ ಮೇನ್ ಮೆಮೊರಿ storage capacity is small compared to secondary memory. So the CPU communicates directly only with the main memory. So the CPU is process the data. That data directly it will receive from the main memory. Main memory means primary memory. So CPU is communicate directly only with the main memory. It will receive the data from the main memory and process the data. For that processing, the main memory provides a space to the CPU. As the CPU works at very high speed, its matching memory must be very fast. CPU can process millions of instructions per second. Then we know the characteristic of computer. The first characteristic of computer is a speed. The computer is calculates the data by using very high speed, right? That's why. So the CPU speed is matching. The memory must be very match. CPU ಸ್ಪೀಡನ್ನು ಮ್ಯಾಚ್ ಮಾಡುವಂಥ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಸ್ಪೀಡು ಕೂಡ ನಮಗೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಆ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಸ್ಪೀಡು ಪ್ರೈಮರಿ ಮೆಮೊರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ CPU ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಪ್ರೈಮರಿ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಜೊತೆ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. Only primary memory devices can provide the matching speed to the CPU. There are two primary memory devices are available. Those two are RAM, RAM and ROM, ROM. So what are the two primary memory devices? RAM and ROM. Well, next we move to the first primary memory device has RAM. You know the full form of RAM? RAM stands for Random Access Memory. It is important for 1 mark. They are asked expand RAM. You write the expanding term for RAM is Random Access Memory. So anywhere you expand the terms, in each and every word, the first letter must be written in capital. Remaining letters you write in lowercase letters or small letters, but the first letter in each word should be capital. RAM stands for Random Access Memory. RAM is also called as main memory of the computer. RAM ಅನ್ನು ಪ್ರೈಮರಿ ಮೆಮೊರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಮೇನ್ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. The users can write information into RAM and read information from it. So the users can write the information into the RAM. ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ನ ರ್ಯಾಮಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೀಬೋದು, ರ್ಯಾಮಿಂದ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ನ ರೀಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೋದು. When the CPU turns a program, it fetches the program instructions from RAM and carries them out. ಯಾವಾಗ ಸಿ ಪಿ ಯು ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ಸನ್ನು ರನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೋ ಅದು ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ಸನ್ನು ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ರಿಸೀವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ? ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ರಿಸೀವ್ ದ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ರ್ಯಾಮ್ ಡಿವೈಸ್. ದೆನ್ ದ ರ್ಯಾಮ್ ಡಿವೈಸ್ ಈಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾರೀಸ್ ದ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಗಿವನ್ ಟು ದ ಸಿ ಪಿ ಯು. ಇಫ್ ದ ಸಿ ಪಿ ಯು ನೀಡ್ಸ್ to store the results of the calculations, it can be stored them in RAM. Andre at the time of processing the data, if any calculation is there in the instructions, that calculation data must be stored in the RAM device. RAM is a volatile memory. Volatile means once the data is returned to the RAM, it is not permanent. So once the power is goes off or we are turn the program, then the data will be erased in the RAM device. So that's why RAM we are called as a volatile memory. RAM is a volatile memory. The information written into it is retained into as long as the power supply is on. Suppose we are turn the program, the data will be erased in the RAM. Otherwise, if the power is goes off or it will be terminated, whatever the data should be stored in the RAM, that can be erased immediately. That's why RAM is called as a volatile memory device. As soon as the power supply goes off, ಇಟ್ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಈಸ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್. ಅಂದರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಪವರ್ ಹೋದಾಗ ರ್ಯಾಮಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಇದ್ದರೂ ಕೂಡ ಅದು ಎರೇಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ವಿ ಕಾಂಟ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್. ದ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮರ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟು ರೀಲೋಡ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಇನ್ ಟು ದ ರ್ಯಾಮ್ ವ್ಯಾನ್ ಪವರ್ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಈಸ್ ರೆಸ್ಯೂಮ್ಡ್. ಮತ್ತೆ ನಾವು ಪವರನ್ನು ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ರ್ಯಾಮಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಡೇಟಾನ ರೀಲೋಡ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ವಾಲಟೈಲ್ ನೇಚರ್ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಮ್ಮ ಡೇಟಾ ಲಾಸ್ ಆಗೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಮಗೆ ಪವರ್ ಬಂದಾಗೆಲ್ಲ ಡೇಟಾನ ರೀಲೋಡ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕೆ? ರ್ಯಾಮ್ ಡಿವೈಸ್ಗೆ. There are two important types of RAM devices are there. The two types of are static RAM and dynamic RAM. What are the two RAM devices? First one is a static RAM and another one is a dynamic RAM. First we move to the static RAM. The static RAM stored information as long as the power supply is on. Static RAM andre it is a fixed RAM. Here it will store the information as long as the power supply is on. Power supply ಇರೋವರೆಗೂ ಈ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್ ರ್ಯಾಮಲ್ಲಿ ಡೇಟಾ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. The static RAM is costlier and consumes more power. ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್ ರ್ಯಾಮ್ಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಪವರ್ ಬೇಕು ಡೇಟಾನ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ. ಆ ಡಿವೈಸನ್ನು ರನ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಪವರ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ಅದರ ಕಾಸ್ಟು ಕೂಡ ನಮಗೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ದೇ ಡು ನಾಟ್ ನೀಡ್ ರಿಫ್ರೆಶಿಂಗ್ ಸರ್ಕ್ಯುಲೇಟರಿ. So each and every few milliseconds of time the static RAM does not refresh. They have higher speed than dynamic RAM. Dynamic RAM compare ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ static RAM ಸ್ಪೀಡು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದೆ. Understood? These are all the points comes under static RAM. I will repeat the points. Static RAM stored information as long as the power supply is on. Static RAM is costlier and consumes more power. They do not need refreshing circuitry. They have higher speed than dynamic RAM. Next, we move to the dynamic RAM. Dynamic RAM is cheaper and they consume less power. Compared to static, dynamic RAM is cheaper and it will consume less power. They are used where large capacity of memory is needed. When we are required a large capacity of memory, then we are used dynamic RAM instead of static RAM. Dynamic RAM loses its stored information in a very short time, a few milliseconds, even though the power supply is on. ಅಂದರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಪವರ್ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಇದ್ದರೂ ಕೂಡ ರ್ಯಾಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋವಂಥ ಡೇಟಾ ನಾವು ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋಂಥ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನು ಫ್ಯೂ ಮಿಲಿ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಆಟೋಮೆಟಿಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಎರೈಸ್ ಆಗಿಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ, ಡಿಲೀಟ್ ಆಗಿಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. Therefore, dynamic RAM have to be refreshed periodically, generally every 2 milliseconds. ಸೊ ಡೈನಮಿಕ್ ರ್ಯಾಮು 2 milliseconds ಒಂದ್ಸರಿ ಪೀರಿಯಾಡಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ರಿಫ್ರೆಶ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದು ರಿಫ್ರೆಶ್ ಆಗ್ತಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದನೇ ನಮಗೆ ಪವರ್ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಇದ್ದರೂ ಕೂಡ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡಿರುವಂಥ ಡೇಟಾ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ಸು ಎರೈಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ದ ಅದರ್ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ರ್ಯಾಮ್ ಡಿವೈಸಸ್ ಆರ್, so there are two standard RAM devices are there. The two devices are static RAM and dynamic RAM. Other than static and dynamic RAM, so other RAM devices are also available. Those are EDO RAM. EDO stands for Extended Data Output RAM. The Extended Data Output RAM improves the time to read from memory on faster microprocessor such as Intel Pentium. EDO RAMs are initially optimized for 66 megahertz Pentium. So EDO RAM means Extended Data Output RAM. ಇದೇನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ? It will improve the time to read from the memory. ಅಂದರೆ ಸಿ ಪಿ ಯು ಮೆಮೊರಿಯಿಂದ ಡೇಟಾನ ರೀಡ್ ಮಾಡೋಂಥ ಸ್ಪೀಡು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇದು ಯಾವ ಮೈಕ್ರೋ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಫಾಸ್ಟರ್ ಮೈಕ್ರೋ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸರ್ ಸಚ್ ಆಸ್ ಇಂಟೆಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸರ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಪೆಂಟಿಯಮ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸರ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. Initially, it will optimize for 66 megahertz Pentium. ಇದನ್ನು 66 megahertz Pentium ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಆಪ್ಟಿಮೈಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಕೂಡ ಇನಿಷಿಯಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದಷ್ಟು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟೆಂಡೆಡ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಔಟ್ಪುಟ್ ರ್ಯಾಮ್. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಅದರ್ ಡಿವೈಸ್ ಆಫ್ ರ್ಯಾಮ್ ಈಸ್ DDR/SD-RAM. DDR/SD-RAM stands for Double Data Rate Synchronized Dynamic Random Access Memory. It is very important for expanding term in the Honeyl exam. DDR/SD-RAM. DDR/SD-RAM stands for Double Data Rate Synchronized Dynamic Random Access Memory. It is a type of very fast computer memory. ಪ್ರೈಮರಿ ಮೆಮೊರೀಸಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬ ಫಾಸ್ಟ್ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಯಾವುದು ಅಂದರೆ DDR/SD-RAM. It is based on same architecture of SD-RAM. So static synchronized dynamic RAM architecture ಇರುತ್ತೆ, but uses a clock signal differently to transfer twice the data in the same amount of time. SD-RAMಗೆ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ DDR/SD-RAM ಡಬಲ್ ಡೇಟಾನ ಅಟ್ಟೆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂದರೆ SD-RAM ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಸೇಮ್ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು ಡೇಟಾನ ಟ್ವೈಸ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಮಾಡೋಷ್ಟು ಕೆಪಾಸಿಟಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವರ್ಕ್ಸ್ ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ ಆನ್ ದ ಕ್ಲಾಕ್ ಸಿಗ್ನಲ್ಸಿಂದ ಇದು ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಅಷ್ಟೇ. This is about DDR/SD-RAM information. Students, you know the complete information about RAM. RAM stands for Random Access Memory. It is also called as the main memory of the computer. So here RAM is volatile in nature, volatile memory, because the power goes off, the stored information is lost. There are two important types of RAM devices are there. They are static RAM and dynamic RAM. So static RAM does not require any refresh. Static RAM is costlier. Static RAM consumes more power. Static RAM stored information as long as power supply is on. The speed is high compared to dynamic RAM. Next, dynamic RAM means it is cheaper, it consumes less power, it requires refresh rate. In the dynamic RAM, if the power is on, the data is erased after few milliseconds. The dynamic RAM have refreshed periodically, generally every 2 milliseconds. Other important devices of RAMs are EDO RAM and DDR-ST RAM. EDO RAM stands for Extended Data Output RAM. DDR-ST RAM stands for Double Data Rate Synchronized Dynamic Random Access Memory. So, in these primary memory devices, DDR-ST RAM is a very fast computer memory. Understood? So, next class, we are discussed the second primary memory device is ROM, and we are moved to the secondary memory devices. Thank you, students.